Hi, I'm Heidi with Onigo Stamping. Welcome to my craft corner. Today I have a fun little tin that is the perfect size for a gift card or a photo card that I'm going to show you how to make. Before I get started though, if you have any questions or you need help ordering Stampin' Up product or would like to host a Stampin' Up event, I would be happy to help you out with that. Go ahead and leave me a comment or send me an email. All of the dimensions, more photos, and a link to the supply list for today's project can be found on my website, and the link to my website is in the description to this video. You'll also find links to all my other social media channels, so go ahead and click around and come follow me over there too. If you like today's video, make sure that you share it with your friends, like, and subscribe to my channel. Okay, Onigo, let's get stamping. So here's the project that I'm going to be sharing with you today. Normally I wait and I show you the project at the end of the video, right? And we just kind of make it as we go along. But for this one, I wanted to show you what the end product was going to look like. So these are these cute little tins. They come 4 in a package for $12, I believe. And they are the perfect size to put a gift card in. So they make really, really great gift card holders for Christmas. But I have also created a little card in here that looks just like that. It's just a very simple card. And when you open it, you have this beautiful photo card filled with photos. These are my kids when they were little. They're not this little anymore. Not even close to this little anymore. But just a really fun photo card. And you could use additional designer series paper. You could make this even longer. You know, if maybe you have a grandparent that has 12 grandkids, well, you could make this long enough that you have 12 photos just by adding a second piece of designer series paper and adhering them together and getting it even longer. So let me show you how I made this really fun little gift card holder and photo. I'm going to call it a photo card, a fold-out photo card. So I'm going to put the items to the side. This project uses the Christmas Gleaming stamp set. This is a really great stamp set. This was in last year's mini catalog as well, and it came back this year in the mini catalog. So if you kind of glanced over it, it's still there. There are some punches that go with it that punch out the ornaments. So it comes in a pack, and then it has this absolutely beautiful, I'm going to show you, it has this really, really beautiful, designer series paper called the Brightly Gleaming Designer Series Paper. You can see it right here. That has these gorgeous copper elements to it. And these are a couple of additional cards. I'm not showing you how to make these, but just to show you some cards made with this set too. So just really pretty. All right. That's the stamp set we're using. I'm going to start with a piece of designer series paper. This is 2 1/2 inches by 3 7/8. And this is going to be the top of my tin. So let me grab my tin. And what I'm going to do is on the back of it, because I'm going to use the dotted side, I'm just going to lay the tin on top and kind of make sure that it's in the center. And then I don't know what happened to my pencil, so I guess I will take a pen. Normally I would use a pencil for this. But I'm just going to take my pen and just mark those corners. Now, if you have a corner rounder, you could just use that. It would work. I don't have one, so I'm just using the tin as a guide. And then I will take my paper snips and just cut those corners. And I actually want to go a little bit inside that line. Just make sure those look good. If it's not perfect, we're going to kind of cover up the very edges, so it's okay. So then I'm just going to grab my tin again, and I'm going to lay it on there and see, yep, that's about good. Like I said, we're going to cover up the edges a little bit, so it's okay. I'm going to use some Stampin' Seal Plus. So this is our new adhesive. It's super, super strong, And it works really well for things like this. So you'll see it comes out like in these little tiny rectangles that are on there. And I'm just going to roll that out and adhere this to the top of my tin. Try to get that centered. Now, somewhere here, I have this metallic tape. This is not from Stampin' Up. This I got just online. And I don't know, this might be for some sort of like heating and cooling. I don't know, to put on your ductwork or something. I have no idea what this stuff is for. But I use it in crafting. And some of you know that I, in addition to card making and things, I also make some little marching band hat Christmas ornaments. And this is the tape that I use on those to really get some nice silvery edges on things. So it comes off like this. I'm going to start at the back, and I'm just putting it about halfway up on the back. So you can see it kind of like sticks up over the edge, right? Whoops. It's really easy to peel off and re-stick if it's not exactly where you want it or straight. Once it gets stuck down though, it stays stuck. So I'm just wrapping this around. Hopefully you can see how that sticks up over the top edge. And I'll just wrap this all the way around. I'm pulling it as I go. Just like that. Then we're going to come back all the way to the back and hopefully try to line this up. You want to get this as even as you can where it overlaps just a little bit. And I'll just take my snips and cut that off. Hopefully. And then what you're going to do is just go around the whole thing and push it down. And on the corners, just kind of push those in. You can kind of do the corners first even if you want to, and then push the edges. So it gets kind of crimped in the corners, but it gives a nice kind of clean edge around the outside. And then you could take your bone folder. If I can find my bone folder, here it is. And you can just run that right over the edge, and that will really push it down and get it on there nice and tight. And kind of burnish those corners where it overlaps. Right, so just like that. Make sure all those bits are pushed down good. And I just like that. It gives it a nice metallic edge around the outside. See, I even just use my fingernail. So once I have that done, I'm going to add some ribbon to the edge too. So I like this just on the very edge of it. I'm going to wrap it around and see how long I want it, because I haven't measured this. I'll measure it after I take it off. So this is about 13 inches around there. And it will overlap a little bit in the back. So I'm just going to snip that off. And then I'm going to take that Stampin' Seal again. And I am just running this right down the middle of this ribbon. Some of the ribbons the seal will not stick to. But this ribbon, the seal sticks to really nice, which means it's great for adhering the ribbon because it will really stick. So now that whole back side is sticky. And again, I'm just starting at the back, putting it all the way down at the edge, and just wrapping this around. And just gluing it down as I go. Again, it's really sticky, but if you need to, like before you really push it down, it will pull back up, especially off this metal. But it holds it really nice. So there's our nice ribbon trim edge. Again, with a nice silver sheen to it. Now for the top, for the elements on the top, we're gonna start, I have a piece of scrap Whisper White here. And I have the holly and the berries. I'm gonna stamp this with the Tuxedo Black Memento ink pad because I wanna color it with Stampin' Blends. And remember, the Stampin' Blends are alcohol markers. So I need to use a water-based ink, which is what the Memento ink pad is. Because if you were to use an alcohol-based or a solvent-based ink, like like the StazOn ink pads, sorry about that. Those inks would run when you were trying to color with the Stampin' Blends because the alcohol makes them run. So you want to make sure that you use a water-based ink pad like the Memento ink pad. I'm stamping those 3 times and then I'm going to color them in. So I'm going to start with the dark Old Olive and I am going to put down some ink over the veins and maybe a little bit kind of towards the bottom, a little extra dark green down there. And I'll do that on the other leaf too. And I always like to kind of rotate my paper to make it easier to get my markers going the right direction instead of trying to push them the wrong direction. Now I would do that with all 3 and let that dry a little bit. I'm going to come back in with the dark Poppy Parade. You could also use Real Red, but I don't have Real Red. And the Poppy Parade actually, it matches fairly well. I'm going to use the dark Poppy Parade and I'm just coloring the outside of those berries and leaving a spot in the middle. Then I will come back over now that I've let the dark Old Olive kind of give it a minute to dry out a little bit, that alcohol in there to dry. Then I come in with the light Old Olive and I'll just color right over this to blend it out into the light color. So the whole thing is covered. Oh, you know what? I think I was not supposed to use Old Olive for these. I was supposed to use Mossy Meadow. Well, you get the idea. I would do the exact same thing with Mossy Meadow. I forgot that the color in the paper is Mossy Meadow and Pear Pizzazz. So these should have been Mossy Meadow, but that's okay. You get the idea. I would have done the exact same thing with the dark Mossy Meadow and the light Mossy Meadow. So just color over those. And I come back in with the light Poppy Parade and I'll color back in over all of the berries. Really quick and easy. So I do that with all 3. Then I take my paper snips and I will just fussy cut these. And when I'm fussy cutting, I usually mostly turn the paper and not the scissors. It just kind of gives you a smoother edge most of the time. Sometimes you have to turn the scissors a little bit too, but. And sometimes I decide I'm going to cut the other 2 off so that they're not in my way. So there's my fussy cut image. And of course I would have 3 of these. Next, we're gonna heat emboss this whole thing. So I have my Versamark ink pad and I have a pair of cross clamp tweezers that I like to use. I kind of move some stuff out of here. I'm using some clear embossing powder. Now I have this really old bin of clear embossing powder. I've had it for ages. We don't sell this giant size anymore, which is too bad, but you can just, I've had it for years and you can see it's still like full. So you really don't ever need that much embossing powder. But it's nice and big. So I just dump it right in here. If you don't have something like this, you might want to get like a plastic container with a lid that you can put your embossing powder in, or you can, you know, use a scrap paper and then dump the embossing powder back in the in the container. Whew, I am losing my words tonight. So I'm just taking this image and I am just tapping it down into the Versamark. Then I'm going to peel it off and I'm going to drop it right in there and just kind of tapping it to make sure that every bit of it gets some embossing powder on it. And then I'll set it on my paper and I'm going to heat emboss this. And usually I'm better off. I got to put my tweezers over here. I kind of hold it. You can see when that embossing powder melts, it turns a nice bright shiny color. I'm going to do this multiple times. So there's our first time, and I'm going to go ahead and tap it back on top of my Versamark pad again. We'll drop it in the embossing powder again. And I will heat emboss it. And usually when you have about 2 layers of embossing powder on here and it's still hot, you can just take it and dip it right back in and it will stick to itself. You don't have to keep doing. Oops. I might do this 4 times. I only plan to do it 3 times. I might decide that I wanted to do it 1 more time. There we go. You get kind of a really thick layer. So this just gives it this really thick, shiny, almost plasticky look to it. And I would do that with all 3 of those images. I also will come in. I don't know why I'm putting that away because I'm going to need it again in just a second. I'm going to just push that out of the way. I have a strip of Whisper white cardstock and I have a Merry Christmas stamp here. I'm going to grab my real red ink pad and ink this up. I keep going out of the shot of the camera. Sorry about that. And I will stamp that. Oops. You know what? I'm going to try to do that a little bit straighter just to make it, when I cut it, to get a nice edge. So then I'll cut this out just like I did. See, I should have gotten it a little closer to the top again. So I'm leaving a little bit of a white edge, just like I did with the holly and berries. Cut those out. Come back with my embossing powder, with my Versamark and my embossing powder again. We're going to do this exactly the same way. The Versamark is really sticky ink, so that's why the embossing powder sticks to it. All right, so that is nice and shiny too. There is, I don't know if this is showing up on the video, but at some point over the years, I've gotten a little bit of glitter in my embossing powder. So you will notice that my embossed images, when I emboss with clear like that, they do have a little bit of a sparkle in them. So, all right. Now I have the 3. I said there was going to be 3. There's 3, and you can see the difference. This is the old olive versus the mossy meadow ones. So I'm going to adhere a couple of these down again using the Stampin' Seal Plus. Set one like right here. I'm going to put this on with some dimensionals. If I can find my little dimensionals. I don't remember if a full-size dimensional will fit on here. Let's see. Oh, it does. Good. I can put some full-size dimensionals on here. Just barely. Should have gotten this one closer to the edge. We'll just peel that off, try again. And now it's not straight. These ones really, they're so close to not fitting that they really have to be straight on there. All right. So I'll adhere my sentiment right to the front. I'm going to add another holly leaf. This little cluster, we're going to put it over here, and I'm just sliding it kind of right up against the edge there. And then the third one, I'm going to put this on with dimensionals too. There we go. And there. So there's the front. And then just to give it a little bit of extra something, we're going to add some. You can't see the mess, but there's a giant mess all the way around the part that you can see. So I was just grabbing my Take Your Pick tool. And these are just the regular rhinestones. I'm going to add a few of these to the front. So just to give it a little bit extra glitz and glam. Because who doesn't like that, right? This is one of those projects you just got to go all out on. All right, so there's the front of my tin, all decked out and glamorous. Now, let's work on the inside. For this, I have a piece of 3 inches by 12 inches, and now there is this always happens to me. As careful as I am, there is embossing powder all over my table, and it just feels gritty. So I have a piece of 3 inches by 12 inches Heartwarming Hugs Designer Series paper. This is the same paper that's on the front, right? So, and I'm going to score this every 2 inches. So we're going to score this at 2. And I'm just using my Stampin' trimmer for this at 2, 4, 6. We'll pull out the arm. 6, 8, and 10. And then I can accordion fold this. And I'll use my bone folder to really push down those edges good. This will help help it lay nice and flat. All right, that's all ready. Then for the front, so I have a couple of pieces of Designer Series paper. They are 1 inch by 2 1/4. Basically, you could have made this a larger size. I had a piece of paper that was like this big, and it wasn't quite big enough for what I wanted. So I was like, well, I'm just going to cut it in half instead of cutting into a giant piece, and we'll just make it look like it takes up that whole space. Then I have a piece of Mossy Meadow cardstock that's 1 3/4 by 2 1/4. And a piece of Whisper White that's 1 1/2 by 2 1/4. And all of these dimensions are available on my website. And you'll find the link to that in the description to this video. So no worries. I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says deck the halls with boughs of holly using real red ink. And then I have another piece for the inside that is Whisper White, and it is, let me find the dimension for you. It is 2 3/4 by 1 3/4. And I'm going to stamp this and be jolly this season. This stamp is a little bit big to go straight on, but it looks really good if you just turn it on its edge, kind of diagonally, just a little bit. So I'm stamping this with Real Red too. And this is going to be our back panel. This is a great place to put, to sign the card if you want to. Now, I have a couple of pieces of Real Red cardstock. I'm going to line these up. I'm going to take my tin again and just lay this on here. And I'm just using this to mark the corners. So if I can see. I should have done this before I decorated the top. Because really I should use the top edge. I'm going to pull this down just a little bit. All right. Just marking the curves of the corners. And I'll do that again up here. And then I'm going to attempt to hold these together while I cut the corners. This way the corners will all match really well to make a nice card. Because these corners are not perfect. If I had a corner rounder, that would be great. So just like that. All right. And I'm going to check and see, make sure this will fit. So it's always good when you're kind of cutting stuff. Okay, it does. Because sometimes you don't quite get the corner, so it's good to check it and just make sure that it's going to fit nicely in the box. So now, before I adhere this, I'm going to put down some ribbon. And I am just going to guess at how long I want to be, which means I will end up, you know what, I'm going to do something else first. So here's the back. I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to work on my front first and just get that all put together so I kind of know where I want to put the ribbon. And because my Stampin' Seal Plus is right here, I really should find my liquid adhesive because I don't want to waste all my Stampin' Seal Plus. Might have other big projects to use. Plus, I like the liquid adhesive because you can kind of move things around a little bit. Make sure they're on there straight. All right. So we'll just put those 2 strips on there. And then when we cover this up, you'll never know that it is 2 strips instead of 1. So this is going to go right on here. And I'm kind of putting it towards the top, so it's a little bit bottom heavy because we're going to put the ribbon towards the bottom. And then we're adding the greeting. Just like that. Now I kind of know where I want the ribbon. I'm going to try to figure out how long I want the ribbon. You know what? My ribbon roll is almost gone, so I'm just going to pull this all out. Leave that end on. All right, so what I want to do is I want to lay this down on here. I want to figure out where this ribbon is going to be. And then we will put down some of the Stampin' Seal Plus. This will just really hold this ribbon in here good. So now we can put together our card. So I'm going to start by adhering the back, and I'm using the Stampin' Seal Plus again to adhere the inside card just because it might get some tugs and pulls. So this just goes right in the center. And then I'll put some more adhesive on the top. And we'll put the top on. And try to line that up nice. So there we go. Now inside here, I would put pictures. So I'll show you the sample again. I would put pictures, and then I cut letters out from Pear Pizzazz cardstock using the Playful Alphabet die set. And I just put those right on each of the photos, just kind of make it look cute. One thing I did do is I created this kind of, I don't know, frame that was about the right size because I was cutting down these photos. And this way I could just lay it right over top and cut it. This was great because these were old photos that were already printed. Now, if you're doing it from digital photos, you can decide the size and crop it just how you want it before you even print it. So I would do all that. Remember this back panel, this back piece goes on our last panel inside. Lay that down. Beautiful. And then we're going to close our card and tie the front, and then we'll trim the edges, the ends of our ribbon. And you probably want to leave the ends a little bit long because if you open it and then you're trying to retie it, it's always good to have a little bit extra ribbon because it will make it easier to retie. Because otherwise you'll sit there and you'll be like, I can't get this. It's too short. So there we go. And I'll just snip the ends at a nice angle. And there's our fun little card that will go right inside of our little tin. Just like that, to give to somebody. Isn't that adorable? I love it. Love it. Wasn't that a great little gift card tin and photo card that you could give to somebody? I absolutely love this idea. I think it would be perfect for a grandparent or a special loved one. If you liked today's video, make sure that you like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel, and then come on back for more tips, techniques, and inspiration. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.